Well, good afternoon, folks. Hope you are having a good Monday and you had a good weekend. Drop a comment, say hello, say what's going on. Let us see how you are doing as we get going this Monday. We're going to have Tom join us in a little bit. At least I hope so. He has told me he will. But we have a lot to talk about, and there's some very interesting um, intersections, I guess is probably the best word to use when it comes to kind of what's going on in Iran. Why I think we're probably more knowledgeable about this issue than most people that you watch, and I mean that across the board, and also Christians that comment on this issue. We well, I guess I'll explain that when Tom comes on, and some of you guys know details of that. But uh, in regards to the history, in regards to the proximity of where we have lived, the both of us, where our parents have lived and grown up, where our relatives have lived and grown up, as a matter of fact, where our ancestry has been for hundreds of years, and why this situation matters to us, and what it could mean, I think, in regards to the kingdom of God, and how we are to think about it as Christians. All of that, we're going to be discussing. So stay with us. I think, again, I think you'll be well informed. I really do think you'll be well informed. Got a couple of videos that we will show you. Some friends on the ground who are actually not just talking heads and are trying to do things to guide and aid and be what God's called us to be on this earth. So lots of those things, and so I'm excited to share
Iranians.
Excited to share that with all of you guys. As a matter of fact, let me see as we get into some of your comments. I wish I had a operator where I could just be like, pull this up, and they'll pull it up. But here's what it is. Prayers go out to the Iranian people. Amen to that. God is good. Lord, have mercy. Amen to that. Evelyn, how are you doing? God bless you, sister. And this is exactly what I thought. Your prediction was correct. You said 2-1, and they did win 2-1. And as we speak about this, we got a sister who's joining us in the comment section, Agape. She says, "Oh, so glad you're on. I have a question I was wrestling with this morning on Psalm 37. Hope all is well with you." Maybe before we answer your question about Psalm 37, the question we should be asking you is, how are you doing? How's your family doing, considering that you are Iranian? And maybe it'll be helpful for our audience to know, what the thoughts are of Iranians when it comes to this issue specifically. So share that with us, please. Sorry, I'm like multitasking like crazy right now. So, and I'm trying to pull up Psalm 37, and I just realized my glasses are dirty. I need new glasses. We're going to look at Psalm 37, by the way. I do think I fixed the echo problem, and I'm going to bring Tom in right now, who, let's see. There's Tom. Absolute disappointment to me. He's like a child I have that's disappointing me constantly.
What's up?
Can you hear me? Yeah. Horrible internet again for some reason.
Oh, my internet is super fast right now, man. Is it showing a little bit of a lag?
Yeah. Let me actually try to do something here. Mine's showing really slow, and it wasn't. And I don't know why it's even doing this. I mean,
Yeah,
That's pretty
mine is the fastest it's ever been right now. So
Yeah, okay.
I
Hang
made
on.
sure I restarted and did all that good
Yeah,
stuff.
so did I. Give me a second. I'm gonna give you hang on, I'm gonna throw you on the screen and then do something on my end. That's me. That's not supposed to be me, but here. Here's Tom.
What's up, everybody? How y'all doing? It's it's always so exciting when Monday comes around. You know, my Mondays used to be just your typical Monday where you're like, it's Monday, and then someone who's trying to be a saint and a strong Christian goes like, don't complain about Monday. Monday is a great day. But in your head, you're like, nah, bro, it's just a Monday. Ain't nothing great about a Monday. But ever since we've been doing live streams, now I kind of look forward to Mondays. Mondays are nice. Mondays are cool. Mondays are educational. Mondays are dramatic. It's not just a day anymore. It's a Monday. So I'm happy to be here. Just waiting for, you know, I long for the day that we don't have technical difficulties anymore. You know, maybe Arthur, maybe when we're streaming in heaven, brother, maybe when you and I have a YouTube channel in heaven and we're streaming, we won't have these kind of internet issues. We'll have very powerful connection. What do you guys think? Arthur, you still there, or am I alone here? Okay, I think he's gone. Can you guys hear me? Can everybody hear? Can I get a yes if you can hear me? Because I don't know if I'm
Why are
talking to
you
myself.
gay?
I don't know if I'm talking to myself right now. All right. If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. Give me something in that chat box. Ooh, super chat, super chat. Thank you, bro. Thank you. Appreciate it. Tell Pastor David he did well with a tough text. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. You guys want me to rap? guys, I've been coughing for like 2 weeks, and for normal people who go through, you know, coughing or sickness and stuff like that, yeah, they kind of get through it. They rest and all these kind of things. But when you sing, you don't have that luxury. Your voice is the most important thing, right? So like, if your voice is not working, it's like, you know, it's depressing. So pray for me, guys. My voice is coming back, but pray for me that it's gonna come back stronger. Oh, look at the quality here, brother.
Yeah,
This is some 8K.
we'll see. We'll see if it's stable.
This is some
We'll
8K
we'll see how
quality right now.
stable. We see how stable it is.
What?
That, by the way, that was on accident. I put my phone on the pad and it did that. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. Let me jump in. Did we get a response from Agape? She says, on behalf of all the Persians around the world, sorry, wow, that was horrendous reading. On behalf of all the Persians around the world, thank you for voting for Trump.
That's deep.
I don't know the amount of comments I've seen in regards to thanking Trump and all that stuff for what he's done. And what's going on. Look, I'm gonna be kind of ruthless with some of my comments when it comes to this. So here it is. I'll say this in the right to you, to the camera. I have not seen half of one Iranian whose life has been turned upside down, inside out by this regime. People who are, and I'll name the places, people who are in the United States, people all across the world. The most epic comment came from an Australian newscaster who cussed out the Khomeini who had been killed. In America, Iranians living in Armenia, currently refugees in Armenia can't go back to Iran. None of these people have said, "Oh no, can't believe America's doing this." So if you're a talking head, consider myself to be a talking head as well, but I tend to be closer to some of these situations than all the other talking heads. If you're a talking head who's got no vested interest in the Iranian people, you have no family ties there, you have no hereditary right there, I would say. You don't come from that place. Just shut up. We don't want to hear you. Zero. You don't have family there. You don't have family that's been there before these people, that will be there after these people. You probably won't ever visit there. I would frankly like to tell you to shut the hell up. Nobody wants to hear what you have to say, because you're just talking. If you're saying stuff, especially if you're talking about how whatever, you don't realize how pro stupidity you are. Just shut up. People are just sick and tired of hearing you. Is that good, Tom?
Yeah. I think
Would you
that's
like to
pretty
add
good.
to that, to tell people to shut up a couple of times more?
I mean, yeah. If anytime you give me permission to tell people to shut up, I'll do it. Just everybody shut up for whatever reason. We don't want to hear you. If we wanted to hear you, you would be on this live stream right now with Arthur.
That's right.
But we don't want to. So just
And
generally speaking.
and this is exactly what I mean. Agape says both my mom and dad are in Iran. I'm worried, but to be honest, I've been grieved for weeks. The Lord has heard our pleas or pleading for justice, and we are rejoicing that the regime is about to be turned over. So Agape has the right to speak. You know why? Because she's from there. She's got family there. Mom and dad on Iran. She has a right to speak. Simple as that. Okay.
I don't want to get, like, people have a right to their opinion about the situation. Like, I don't want to be.
But what I want to say is,
like, you're not a woman. You can't talk about abortion.
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying.
I
I'm saying,
like,
there's quite a bit of an ignorance. We'll jump into this, Tom. I got a couple of surprises for you as we're going to go into this. How was your weekend, Tom?
I had an excellent weekend. I recovered from my illness, so I was able to hang out. I was able to see you a few times, actually. It was fun, man. Anytime there's church, anytime we get together with brothers and sisters, that's excellent. And I've just been scrolling, man. It's scroll mania right now because, like every 5 seconds there's something new happening. And I feel like my brain is exploding, but at the same time, it's like, I always tell my wife, Arthur, I go like, right now it's important. I need to be scrolling. Like there's big news going on. And then she's always like, well, you're always doing that. You're always looking at the news, even if it's a slow news day.
That's true.
But it's not. It's been pretty hectic. It's been pretty crazy. So I don't want to say exciting, but it's definitely been, yeah. Well, it is exciting.
Yeah. What was your feeling yesterday when you got that text from me? You know what text I'm referring to? That text in the group.
I don't remember what you're talking about.
Bro,
sorry,
I sent you a very significant text yesterday between you, your wife, and my wife.
Oh yeah. Oh, you mean okay? See, okay, you're joking right now a little bit. This was you dancing to Iranian Persian music.
I wasn't dancing
in the car.
But I was vibing, as the kids say.
You were vibing,
as the kids say.
It was actually very cool. It's very nice to see you vibing to Persian music.
Oh,
so
maybe I might play that for y'all. Do you think I should?
You should. Oh, you want to play that right now, dude? You
should.
I feel like people need to see you vulnerable, bro. Like people need to see you not being serious and just vibing to some Persian music. So I would say 1 in the chat if you guys want to see it. 1 in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay. first person who responds, it goes their way. So if somebody puts 0 or 2 or another number, okay, we won't do it. But the first one that comes in, the first number one that comes in, that should be the person who decides whether this video is to be shown or not. So
Just
you just let me know when the first comment comes in, brother.
Tom, that's not fair. Yours is the first comment
there
that
it
came in.
is. Tom, thank you, Tom. Shout out to Tom out there who sent that one very quickly. Wow. You know, it's nice having a 5-second lag because you can just rig stuff to go your way, right? So you can just
I
always be
suppose so.
rigging.
I highly doubt the chat was gonna disagree with you.
Yeah, I agree.
On
I
that.
agree.
Right.
We want to see even people that I feel like have never talked to you in this chat right now want to see you vibing to Persian music. Let's do it. Let's put it up there, brother.
Let me see. I gotta figure out a number of things here. It's not as simple, by the way. Some of you guys are thinking like, oh, I just like click a button and it happens. And it's like, no, I gotta click like 8 buttons for it to happen.
You've been struggling a little bit on the technological side of things, I feel like, recently.
Why? I haven't. I actually figured out what the it's not echo, by the way. There's actually a word for it. I figured out what the problem actually is, and the reason why there is such a problem is because of the roadcaster. It was on my end, I should say. So apologies to that end. I blame Tom for it, but it's called slapback. Tom, did you know what this is?
No,
So basically, what you need to enable is called a mix minus. Do you know the terminology?
I do not, brother.
Okay,
this is
so
beyond my.
Yeah, so you remember when you were saying, "Oh, just put it on Roadcaster chat."
Yeah.
Okay, so you're right. I do have to put it on that, but I have to put that on there in 3 different places: in my main audio, in the eCam audio, and then there's 2 places in the eCam audio. I gotta enable that essentially, but this is again audio terminology. Here's what's happening. My mixer is functioning both as a input and an output. Okay. So when I play video or when I'm on a conversation with someone like yourself, the computer sends that to the mixer. And so at that point, the mixer is functioning as an input. And then at the same time, it's outputting the audio back into the computer. And so you're getting this slapback, this echo sort of thing, right? And what they've done, actually, there's a manual way of doing this, but what they've done is the audio output that they've enabled, called Roadcaster Pro 2 Chat, actually has that mix minus enabled. So I figured it out, watched a bunch of videos.
You lost me somewhere in the first 10 seconds, but
well, that's crazy because you're a musician and you deal with this stuff.
I trust that you have.
I actually thought you'd track. I actually thought you would track with this, but another point of disappointment you are, because I'm like, he's a musician, he would know these things.
Like seriously, you lost me somewhere plus and minus. Yeah, I remember the plus and minus joke that I used to tell back in the day, but we'll leave that for another time. Let's see the video, man. Come on, people are waiting.
Day yesterday, listening to Persian music. Now that's I love it. So Agape is like, wow, he's playing Andy. So and there's a significance in that, and part of the significance, you guys, is that Andy, who is an extremely popular singer, is actually Armenian. And so the 2 of the most popular Iranian singers of the last 60 years have been Armenians. Right? And Iranians love them and they're accepted. Like it's awesome. And so I wanted to speak about some of this stuff. And again, we'll go into playing some videos. But I regularly listen to that. By the way, I regularly listen to Persian music. My wife is Iranian Armenian, so she was born in Iran, yesterday we were explaining to our 9-year-old daughter, because it's all over the news, and she's about to be 10, about how if she was in Iran, she would have to be. My wife was explaining to her how she would have to be wear head coverings. She went to school and like kind of public appearance and her hair couldn't show and all this stuff, and my daughter was like, what the heck? But which is the reality that my wife had to go through being born and raised in Iran. And there's connections here. There's quite a bit of connections, as a matter of fact. Tom, you were born in Iran.
Yes, I was. I was born in Iran.
And tell us
I've
when
tried
you
to
came
keep
here.
that. I've tried to keep that hidden most times. When people say, "Where are you born?" I just go like, I always have to do the whole. Well, I'm Armenian. I'm Armenian.
He goes,
of Armenian descent.
He tries to get by it by saying something like, "Where were you born?" And he goes, "America." I mean, America.
Yeah. I just go. I am Armenian first of all. Just want you to
And I'm
know.
a Christian.
And I am born in the former Persian Empire, which is now the of Iran. Okay, of Iran. Okay, it doesn't feel good saying you're born in the Islamic Republic.
Yes,
Like
that's true.
That's the worst thing you can possibly. There's probably no worse name, except maybe like Niger or something.
Yeah.
Like if you want to say like what country you're from. That's probably the worst name.
So Tom, in the early 2000s, two of my older brothers were born in Iran. And again, there's a significance in us speaking about this subject. Both my older brothers were both born in Iran. My parents were born in Iran. I have Armenian ancestry, obviously, but Armenian ancestry that had been living in Iran for the past 400 years, both on my mom's and my dad's side.
Same here.
Okay. So again, quite significant history there. And but both my brothers in, I don't know, I want to guess it was 2002, maybe, were traveling from here to Texas. And they got pulled over by the police. Now, mind you, 2001, 9/11, all this stuff's happened. They get pulled over and they get asked for their passports, and they give their passports. And
oh man.
And then it says place of birth, Iran. So they got like detained and searched and all this stuff because of that. So
man.
I haven't had to go and think through that, but yes.
No,
by the way, it doesn't just say Iran. It doesn't just say Iran. It does say the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Islamic Republic, yes. It says the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Yeah.
But listen, it was this is like, I feel like liberals feel like this sometimes, like political liberals, where they're like, they feel like they can speak on everything. And I feel like I finally have the topic where I'm like, I can speak on it. You know what I mean? Let me do the education to you, okay? So that feels kind of nice, I have to say. But I don't like operating that way, because I like living in a world where people can have opinions on things. But I think opinions should be educated opinions. And educated opinions means you can fall on either side of the issue, but at least there should be good reasoning for it.
I feel like Tom's being way more balanced here than me.
No, I'm just saying, like, saying
everybody should have an opinion, but stupid opinion should be called out.
Yes, they should.
Simple.
But saying something like, what does that have to do with America? What does Iran have to do with America? Take care of America. Like, just that statement alone is really, really dumb, because that would mean that like anything outside of America can never directly impact America's safety, American homeland, American resources abroad, American the monetary side, American trade, American ships, like or anything. Like anything else, like it would only have to be something happening in literally American homeland. Like, we have interests outside of that stuff. And trust me, I've been pushed very much towards isolationism, soft isolationism, I would call it, over the last few years, where I feel like that's where the young generation has gone. It's like, we don't want to get into random wars. But There are times, and it sucks, Arthur. You know what sucks about it? Because like it's like this thing that's happening kind of it's more personal. It hits home, so people are like, "Oh, you're just saying that because it's personal." But then like we were saying this about like Nigeria, right? Was it Nigeria? Yeah, it was
Yes,
Nigeria
yeah.
when the Christians were getting killed. Like I was like, yeah, Trump should probably bomb. So I just want to say we're not being inconsistent here. There are times I believe as the superpower empire of the world, you can make decisions and you can do things to assist other people, and it's not like you're letting your people down. It's not like if America bombs some other country for a just reason, all of a sudden that's the reason why we can't figure out like lower egg prices or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not all. It doesn't always correlate, by the way. You can do two things at once when you're literally the most powerful country in the world with all the resources. You don't have to pay anybody back, technically. Let's be real. So just chill, people.
Yes.
Chill out, man.
Yeah,
Think about it.
Look, there's like 4 things I just want to say and said none of them. Yeah, amen to that. Because responding to situations and being politically aware as to what might require something, there's constantly changing variables when you're in these positions that you got to keep up with, right? Like, for example, I'm just going to throw a scenario out there that's close to this. Something like, Trump might come up and say, "Hey, we decimated their nuclear program and all this stuff," and to the knowledge that is in front of him, to the information that's in front of him, that he's reasonable, epistemically justifiable. If you guys want to do some philosophy here, for him to make those comments, and then 2 days later, he gets some information placed in front of him, a briefing placed in front of him that says, yes, even though that's happened, they might be developing intercontinental ballistic missiles, and they're very close to that one. And the situation changes now. And you got to respond to that improperly. On the ground, situations change. The Iranian people have never, ever in the last 47 years stood up and rebelled on the scale that they have been in the last number of months. That's a variable that should be taken into consideration. It's clearly a variable because Trump gets up there and says, "Hey, we're giving you the opportunity to take over your government." So what Trump is essentially saying there is, we are not gonna, wink, wink. We're not gonna put boots on the ground. We're gonna bomb airstrikes, do all these other things, but we're expecting you guys to go in there and take over your government, right? So there's all sorts of variables, and those variables can change. We can wake up tomorrow morning and, Iran has bombed Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia's gotten involved in this war. Like, that's a very big possibility, by the way. Let's not forget that, I think what Agape just mentioned, let's not forget that the Iranian regime, the IRGC, the Ayatollah, just killed, the estimates I've seen are about 30,000 Iranians.
Yeah.
30,000 people were murdered by their own government. So even if like all the other variables aren't there, you could potentially come up as a Christian, come up with a justifiable kind of ethical reason why we should get involved in a nation that is constantly killing its people. Like if Mexico or Canada started killing their population, I think there'll be a lot of Americans who would say, no, we got to stop this. We can't allow our neighboring country to kill its own people like that en masse. So there's a lot of different variables, and I want you guys to be aware of that. Those variables, a lot of people don't think about it. Hey, I want to play a news report that actually just dropped 4 hours ago. And one of the reasons is because I have some good friends that are in this news report, and it deals with this situation. And I want you to hear things from the mouths of actual Iranians from Iran and what they're saying. And they're Christians. Now.
throughout the region are celebrating, including a community of Christian refugees in neighboring Armenia. That's also where CBN's Operation Blessing is getting ready to provide food, shelter, and other aid to refugees fleeing Iran. CBN's Chuck Holton reports from Armenia.
News of Khamenei's death sparked celebrations among Iranians living in Armenia's capital. For many, this is the moment they've been waiting for, the end of a regime that drove them from their homeland.
At 1 a.m., we went to the street in front of the Iranian embassy and started dancing with a bunch of people.
Dancing, jumping, call to my friend, call to my daughter and son-in-law. I'll be happy, so happy. Thanks God. Thank you, Jesus.
Iranians are allowed to travel to Armenia visa-free. Many of them come here to do all the things that they couldn't do in their own country, drink wine, listen to music, things like that. But many of the Iranians you find here in the streets of Yerevan are actually not here as tourists. They came fleeing the persecution in their own country. Armenia is one of the only escape routes for Iranians. Most neighboring countries have closed their borders to refugees. So I'm down at the Iranian border now. That fence behind me, the other side of that is Iran. The border crossing is closed for anybody going into Iran except Iranian citizens, and then there are people streaming out of Iran right now. The problem they're having is they come out of there, they're fleeing, and they don't have any real plan. It's about a 7-hour drive from here to the capital, the major city where they're headed, but the only option for them right now is a taxi, and that's extremely expensive.
The Iranians can go in and come out, but the people mostly they're coming out.
Now, with more escalating, aid organizations are bracing for a new wave seeking safety here.
What Operation Blessing does, the fast reaction to these situations, to give them food, to give them medicine.
Tom, do you know who this gentleman is?
He looks exactly
tell me,
Artag's brother.
That's his brother.
Oh, that's so funny.
That's
like,
his brother.
I didn't even know he has a brother, but I was
Yeah.
like, that looks just like him.
That's his brother. Yeah.
The fast reaction to these situations, to give them food, to give them medical aid, food packages, hygiene packages. They surprised our Muslim brothers and sisters. They closed their doors, but Christians opened their door for us.
Working alongside Operation Blessing is the local international church in Yerevan, and they've been waiting for this moment.
So Operation Announcing Freedom, we've been planning for 6 years to go into Iran and proclaim the gospel in the cities and in the villages. We have now 147,000 Bibles already from Armenia to go into Iran, and our plans are to set up missions bases in cities, and then from there, distribute the gospels and declare who Jesus is to the Iranian people.
As the future of Iran hangs in the balance, Christians here are preparing, not just to receive refugees, but to answer what they believe is a once-in-a-lifetime call.
Thanks God. Thank you, President Trump. I love you so much. I love you.
Well, Chuck Holton joins us now from
So they go into some other conversations there, and maybe we'll come back to that and view it. But yeah, what do you think?
It's incredible.
I mean, I know a bunch of the people in that video, which is really cool.
Yeah. I think this good on Armenia, because Armenia is in a tough situation, by the way, because they are still allied with Iran to a certain extent, even with the Islamic Republic. So you're playing a fine line there, right? Like you don't want to sound like you're hostile because this regime might not fully fall or not fully fall immediately. So you got to play your cards right, and it looks like they're taking that higher calling. And good on the Christians there, by the way. Sorry, I'm not going to toot my own horn here, but it seems like they're mostly Protestant Christians, just from looking at that video.
I would say they're all Protestant Christians from the looks of it.
It looks like there's a Protestant Christians there in Armenia actually trying to assist and bring people out of kind of that misery they're in. So good on those Protestant evangelical Christians in Armenia that are doing the Lord's work. I was gonna say just there's a lot said there. I don't know much about that situation, but what do you think? Like, is this a good thing? Like, do you want people who are anti-Iranian government fleeing Iran at a time where you kind of feel like shouldn't be fleeing?
People are gonna flee for various reasons, and so as the child of immigrants who were refugees and fled a war-torn country, I don't think I'd ever sit somewhere and say it's never justifiable for people to flee given their circumstances. And people's circumstances are very different. I have an acquaintance in Armenia who is a refugee in Armenia, has been for a number of years, who's constantly had death threats. As a matter of fact, when I was in Armenia, he'd regularly get texts from the IRGC just threatening to kill him if he continued doing what he was doing. And he was essentially like leading Zoom Bible studies and stuff for Iranians in Iran. So there's many, many reasons as to why people would flee. And I have really no issues with that. If people don't have food to eat, they won't have the strength to fight back and all of that.
Yeah.
And some of the situations are exactly that. When we were in Armenia from 2019 to the end of 2020, my wife with some friends would, on a number of occasions, went and passed out clothing and food to Iranian refugees in Armenia. People who were just stuck, like they didn't have anything. Legitimately didn't have anything. We had our kids, take toys that they had and pass them out to children. And so, yeah, I mean, Dan's in the chat right now. There's a brother there named Dan. Dan's in Armenia right now. He's connected with the same exact people I'm talking about, who are Iranians and have been under constant persecution. They are rejoicing. These are people, by the way, who are waiting for the situation in Iran to change so they can go back to their homeland. They want to go back. They want to go back and live and see their parents that they haven't seen for who knows how long and how many years. So, yeah, all that. Look, I'm proud in many ways because again, the connections are very unique in regards to Armenians living in Iran. Who I think, generally speaking, Armenians have been a great blessing to Iran over the years.
Yeah, that's right.
There's entire cities that have been built by Armenians in Iran, and have been there and have been respected within culture, within the society, and then just as neighbors even now, caring for their neighbors who are going through a difficult time. And so I want people generally to be aware that there is a distinction. And I think the IRGC, the regime, is a minority of a minority when it comes to the Iranian population. Always be aware of that. Even I'm just by that I even mean your regular Iranian who is culturally Muslim or just Muslim, but they're Shia Muslims, but they don't see eye to eye, and they think what the regime is doing, what the IRGC is doing, is completely wrong. Like there's obviously individuals like that as well. And like they won't be the people who are on TV crying and doing all the antics that they do. And the other thing I would like to share with the Western audience is whenever you see people acting in certain ways, always be mindful that there are culturally expected, there are expectations culturally that you would respond to a certain situation a certain way, but it's not actually authentically the way you feel. Does that make sense, Tom? To you?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like if people are like sitting there and like they're beating themselves in the head and they're wailing and crying and they're putting dirt on their head and stuff, like those are expected ways to mourn. And that's what's going on, generally speaking. And again, be aware of that. Like, don't be culturally ignorant as to what's going on in the world. It's just interesting to me. The reason why I say this, Tom, because a number of weeks ago, there's some videos that resurfaced of the Ayatollah getting elected. Khamenei getting elected, and then he's like, no, I don't want. He's telling all his other imams, no, I'm too bad for this. You guys are all greater than me. I'm the lowest of you guys all. I don't want to be. And this thing was like being spread everywhere. Like the propaganda machine was full on. Like, look how humble he is. He didn't actually want this role. And I'm looking at this. I'm like, bro, this is just Tarov. Like, he's just being Iranian. And like, but the Western audience, like, so ignorant They're just
Yeah, they're so
misreading
dumb.
the
Yeah,
entire situation, like
yeah,
absolutely misreading the entire situation. And so be culturally aware, folks. Um,
yeah. Agape said, "My mom called me an hour ago from Iran. Uh,
that's good.
s- uh, said a lot of bombs have been hit. Tehran has gotten hit pretty badly. She said Trump announces where he will hit, so we're okay. This had to be done."
Hmm.
A.H. Best Spoke says, ignore the BBC, the most corrupted media outlet. We face potential prison for not paying for a TV license, repeated lies and misinformation, and cover-ups for child crime, uh, things of that. It's funny because a lot of people on your channel are actually somehow tied to um, Iran and is some way connected. So it's so interesting.
Yeah.
The viewers we have. I was gonna say there are legitimate pushbacks, by the way, against what the United States and Israel have done. So I just had a couple of my thoughts, and I want you guys to, tell me how you feel about it. First of all, just because a situation in the past happened a certain way doesn't mean you have to completely not do the thing that you did that first time. For example, let me tell you, like Iraq was a bad idea, right? We
Mhm.
went into Iraq, we attacked them, whatever. Just because that happened and it was a bad idea doesn't mean every time the United States takes a military action, it's going to be Iraq. Like, how are people not able to just like separate things in their mind? Like, you can do something that's bad and then you can do the same similar thing in a different situation that with a better outcome. Like, these things are not all the same. Okay, so that's one. Like, a lot of people have been comparing this to Iraq. Second of all, saying things like America should stand for Americans. My friends, uh, there's millions of Iranian Americans in America. Like, though they're Americans, they're not like they're like, if something were to happen like this, where like people in Ireland were being like slaughtered by their government, and a bunch of Irish Americans said things like, um, like we should help Ireland and stuff like that. I highly doubt people would say, "Hey, let's care about Americans.
Yeah.
Who cares about Ireland?" It's because you have this woven, like, it's been accepted that Irish people in America are now Americans in that sense, because there's been this like longevity of generations. But like, these people are Americans too. And so they're making their voices, their opinions about geopolitics as American Iranians. Okay, Americans. That was the second thing I wanted to say. Third thing I wanted to say real quickly, if I can, is um what was I wrote it down here. Yeah, forget it. I'll stick with those two things, and then as we go on with our conversation, I'll talk. So there are pushbacks against, like, so a lot of people like Matt Walsh. I genuinely love Matt Walsh. I love his. I listen to his show and things of that sort. But this whole like thing about like, you know, I it's sad what happened to the Iranian people. It's sad. Granted, it's sad. 32,000 people died. It's terrible. We don't want to see that. But we need to focus on America right now. Like, that's just so tone deaf to the rest of the world. Because again, I don't think Matt Walsh thinks this way if this was happening in some European, like, Western country.
Yeah. England.
Like England or whatever it was. Or let's say somewhere Matt Walsh's family or some other person. Like, if you have 32,000 people die in France, right? Like, I don't think this is the reaction you get. And it sucks because what these people forget, and I don't blame them because even I forget it sometimes, is that in the midst of these countries like Iran, there's millions of Christians, millions underground Christians, okay, that are also suffering um, the Islamic Republic's whatever, a
Wrath.
tyranny. So
Wrath.
wrath. So it's like, do you care for these people as well? Have we, have we been pushed so far into isolationism as Americans, where it's like either it's America only and you're a patriot, okay? And then anytime you step outside of it and then say, you know what, we're the super freaking power of the world. If we want to jump in somewhere and fix something, we have the power and ability to do so.
Yeah.
Like
It's not just the
is
power
that,
and the
is that
ability.
not a position that you take
Sometimes
anymore? By the way,
no, you can, and sometimes it's not just power and ability. Sometimes you actually have the moral responsibility too.
yeah.
Okay, you have the moral responsibility too. Okay, um, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to respond to this comment here. Sabo says the thing is that not all Iranians are happy about this. Those that are ardent Muslims, what will they do? I mean, do you mean those that are on the side of the IRGC and are in like cahoots with them?
Yeah, I think
Because
that's what
I
you're
haven't seen any Iranian, and we live in a place with a lot of Iranians. Like you should see the gatherings that are
Tehrangeles. It's called
happening,
Tehrangeles, literally.
right? Like you should see the amount of gatherings that are happening in Los Angeles. Like, have you seen any that are like, no, this shouldn't be happening? The only ones I've seen. I'll actually tell you the ones I've seen. I've seen Armenians from Iran, but they're extreme leftists.
Yeah.
The only people I've seen that are Iranian that are against this whole situation are leftists. And so that's why I would argue it's not the situation, it's their leftism that's drawing it. It's their as a matter of fact, I would say it's their anti-Jew hate or anti-Jew rhetoric. It's their anti-Trump stuff that they're more against than what's happening in Iran. Because if this was Biden, I know for sure they'd be like completely fine with it. So I haven't seen any. Now to answer your question, what will the ardent Muslims do? Look, I think that's a legitimate question. I don't know what they would do. I don't actually know what the Iranian people will do with them. Like this situation could get really messy. And they're going to have to go through their own national healing and all this stuff. Partly because if there is a regime change, what do you do with the police officers that were beating teenagers and people in their 20s with their batons during protests? Right. It could.
Yeah.
I have no idea what they would do. Obviously, there's still a large population. Iran is a large country. It's got a big population. And these people still exist. Like the religious fanatical types still exist. Yes, in Australia, the mosques are going crazy. People are outraged, crying, especially in Sydney. Correct. Like those are people who are pro-Ayatollah. That's like, let me give you the equivalent of that, okay? That would be, the equivalent of that would be what the Nazi party in America was doing during World War II. They were against America getting involved. Yeah, obviously, because they're pro all those guys. I don't care if they're in Sydney, Australia, or Los Angeles, or London. Like, clearly we've seen it. I mean, HB spoke said that there was demonstrations. Look at this comment he made. He said that in London, there were vigils that were set up to honor the Ayatollah Khamenei, to honor him in London. So, yes, there are people like this, obviously, but those people's voices shouldn't matter in this situation. Plain and simple. It shouldn't matter.
Okay, so check this out. So the women in Iran are probably, and I'm throwing out a number here, I'm kind of exaggerating here, are probably 95% against the Islamic Republic. Okay, even the ones crying in the street right now during Khamenei's like funeral or memorials and stuff like that, they hate their guts. Okay, they just don't have another choice. They can't come out. It's not accepted in that community. They have to come and do the fake and cry. Okay, things of that sort. The younger generation in Iran, anywhere from 18 years old to 45, 50 years old, is absolutely not pro-regime, okay? And then you have that older generation, the generation that sort of put this situation or the children of the generation that put this
Yeah.
situation onto Iranians, that are they might push back, but they're defeated. Like it's a defeated situation. There's no, you can't say like, oh, but our economy is doing so good. Oh, but our money is so strong. It's like you're not going to be fighting for this. And then you got obviously the radical Islamic, but they're just radicals, and so they will have to submit to whatever sort of
Yeah.
government that you create, and re-education of the mind has happened millions of times. One example you just brought: how did Nazi Germany go from Hitler
Yeah.
to the current modern day Germany, where you can't even say the name Hitler? It's because there was some re-education there, shame culture, right? Like
There was
sort of that kind of
punishments. There were
stuff.
courts, like for
Punishments,
all.
courts, exactly.
Look, if there's
Yeah.
actually a regime change, my recommendation, I guess, would be that you hold these people on trial. You just try them all, put them in jail.
Yeah.
Right? You can either do that. That's one option. Some other countries have like had forgiveness courts sort of happen. That's another option. You can definitely do that. It really matters. Now, the reason why you get the kind of reaction from me, like, oh, whether it's in London or whether it's in Australia, whether it's in England or in Australia, that'd be a better parallel. You get all these people that you're seeing in mosques, like you're saying, these are fanatics and all that stuff. That's because England and Australia have allowed for fanaticism to grow in their countries by these people preaching this stuff every single week. Right? And that's a serious question that should be asked of the governments of England and Australia. What will happen to them? Like I said, a lot of things could happen. There could be forgiveness. There could be trials for those who were in higher office. You're going to have to, there's always going to be a change that happens with kind of the populace in regards to your education system. The form of government they pick is going to matter, what that transition looks like. Look, a lot of different things, but just because the situation is difficult and I might not have all the answers as to how it can happen or what could happen, you and I can. I'm not necessarily saying that you're saying this, but we can't be paralyzed to not do something about it. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to react. Like, my concern is for the thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands, young kids under 15 years old who've been indoctrinated into this nonsense up to this point, and what it's going to look like for those kids to come out of that. Like, those are serious questions, right? And
also, you have a homogenous country, by the way.
yes,
Like, you have a
generally
country
speaking,
that,
yeah.
generally speaking, in Iran, yeah, but I mean, culturally, they're like the Azeris are Iranians at that point. They've been there for so long. So you have generally speaking the same culture. Okay, you still have the same religion, or at least the same nominally the same religion. So it's not like these people are walking, like, it's not like Iranians walking in the street. Like, guys, it's important not to view these things in like movie terms or like American terms. Like, if a Muslim, if a pro-regime person is walking down the street versus a non-pro-regime person, they don't really know the difference from each other. Okay, like, it's the same society. So what happens is you bring someone else in power. Hopefully, God willing, people's lives get better. Everybody has to work. Okay, like, you can't just sit around on X, like, going like, we need the Islamic Republic, but like, these people get back to work. They have families to feed and things
Yes.
of that sort. And if you have a government who's still successful, you can't all of a sudden come out and say Islam is banned or whatever, something like that.
Yeah,
Right?
correct.
It's still going to be it's still going to be, for lack of better words, sort of an Islamic country, or with an Islamic identity. But you start working at these things, and as the younger generation grows and as people's lives get better, the voices of the pro-Islamists will go away. Like, how did it happen with the king? Right, the king had a bunch of supporters, and the king left. This guy came into power, blah blah blah, and eventually initially people's lives aren't terrible, right? Like even post Iran-Iraq war, like Iran's economy is not always as bad as it is today. So people sort of get over it and move on and try to feed their families. So it's not an impossible thing. It's going to be difficult. Don't get me wrong, but it's not impossible. But when has it ever been justified that just because something is difficult that that you need to keep the status quo if the status quo is actually evil? So there's going to be difficulty, but like someone just said in the comments, Arthur, it's the people are fleeing Islam in that country, fleeing the religion completely. So it's not like all of a sudden you're going to have like, oh my God, you took this guy out, and now like, what are we going to do with all these people? People's minds change.
I think there's enough. Here's what I would say. I think there's enough people in Iran that are dissatisfied with their, with the state of their existence, that they want a different kind of government. Even the Muslims who are, I'm not talking about nominal people, like people who sincerely are Shia Muslims, are dissatisfied with their existence because they don't have food to eat. And then they know that the Ayatollah and the Imams and all those guys that are in power have major bank accounts in Europe, have homes all across the world. Their kids are partying publicly on yachts and boats, dressed in bikinis when they're there. By the way, what I'm saying is real info from the last 2 months of the Ayatollah's own daughter on a yacht in a bikini with a group of people drinking. And people are seeing these things and they're like, wait, hang on. These guys are living it up on our expense. So again, that's what I'm saying. I don't think the counter in Iran is as big as people are making it seem to be.
Or motivated.
Okay, here's what's happened, by the way, politically, if you guys don't know. I don't know if you guys saw, let me actually try to pull this up. There was I want to do this on Twitter, but because if I do it on YouTube, it's going to get marked Iranian foreign minister. Did you see the conversation with the Iranian foreign minister who said that we don't have control over the IRGC right now? They're functioning independently.
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh yeah. So let me try to pull this up. So basically, the idea is what's going on here is that Khamenei, before his death, gave specific commands to the IRGC, and they're essentially in radio silence, and they're functioning on their own. And actually, the foreign minister was talking about Oman and stuff, like, oh, we want to apologize to Oman because they've attacked Oman, and they're like, we don't have any contact with them.
Yeah. So that's also a good thing that you clarified there. I wish we did that earlier. So the IRGC is not your regular Iranian like military.
Correct.
Just for those people in here that don't know, like the IRGC is more of a loyalist to the Islamic Republic, mainly to the Ayatollahs.
Yeah.
Yes. So keep in mind, there's an entire Iranian military that could function as, you know, like the protectors of the people that are not the IRGC or the Basij and things of that sort. And also, just quickly, Arthur, before you find that video, no one is saying that you can practically go from an Islamic Ayatollah-led government to all of a sudden like freaking full-on democracy. Yes. Like all of a sudden you have like voting, everyone's dancing, there's like signs being, yeah, we want this and we want beer. Like no one's saying like that's where it's going to go. There has to be. So when you have such a well-organized, which the Islamic Republic is, institutionalized government, what's going to have to happen is like some of those people are going to have to play ball. Like some of those people. So it's probably the best way is like the military, right? The military comes in sort of, and there's this like middle ground there's this interim government that sort of has to play, and then the right players have to be involved. The United States and other countries have to push, like, no, that's not democracy. No, that's not democracy, and sort of constantly pushing until there's some genuinely decent form of government. And by the way, guys, a decent government for them might not be democracy. Like, might not be full democracy, like the way you envision democracy. Like Arthur said it earlier on, there's different cultures, there's different ways that people view this. By the way, the people who are calling for the Shah's son, Reza Pahlavi, to come, they're calling for him to come as a king.
Yeah, as a monarch.
Saying that,
as a monarch.
He's saying like, no, I just want to be a transitional candidate or whatever, just to bring democracy. They're saying, come be our king. So that's just like, that goes to show the difference. And I'm not saying it's bad necessarily, but it's the difference of the way an American culture views like an American style democracy, a European Western democracy, versus how they view it. And just full on democracy in the sense that we have all of a sudden elections, 4-year terms, like that might not cut it in a country like Iran. So you have to allow the people to slowly and gradually and through dialogue and things of that sort figure out the type of government they want. And that's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough to do. Do you have your video?
Yep.
Well, there might be a risk. I have been in touch with all of them, as I said, especially with Qatar and Oman foreign ministers. I explained for them what happened in Oman was not our choice. We have already told our, armed forces to be careful about the targets that they choose. As a matter of fact, our, military units are now, in fact, independent and somehow isolated. And they are acting based on instructions, general instructions given to them in advance. Well, there might be a.
So in advance, meaning they were given these things. Again, it could be that there could be a couple of ways you can interpret this, by the way. One is they've been hit so hard that they're disconnected from each other, and they're just reacting as any military would when a situation like that happens. But these are offensive attacks that he's talking about, because essentially Oman, he said Qatar, but how do Americans say Qatar?
Qatar.
Cater. Some of them, it's hilarious. I've heard that country's name pronounced 85 million different ways. But he's saying, I'm talking to them, those were accidents, they weren't supposed to do it. But it seems like they've been given specific instructions on how to retaliate and what this is going to look like. You have to understand that they weren't like sitting there going, the Ayatollah is going to die and a bunch of senior officials are going to die and we're not going to have a high command and stuff. There's a reason why they invoked the 111th whatever article or something like that of their constitution, which essentially now I think the point they made was that the country is being run by the new Ayatollah, the interim Ayatollah, and then the president and someone else. It might be this guy, the foreign minister. Partly because so much senior military has been hit. Senior officials have been hit. And they're going to continue on being. I mean, Ahmadinejad got killed yesterday. I think that's pretty confirmed, right?
He's alive now.
Is that not confirmed?
So now they're saying he might be alive. So it keeps changing.
Yeah, there's all sorts of info.
They're even saying the newly elected Ayatollah,
I heard that.
whose name was Arafi, he might be dead as well. So I don't know. There's like confirmed,
which makes sense because it's war, man. It's well, I would say it's confirmed if the Iranian kind of news, if they come out and say it,
and go,
yeah. At some of that, I don't know whether people are laughing or crying, by the way. They're really forcing their cry.
It's like, okay, now it's confirmed. The guy, once they do the fake cry, it's confirmed. Fake cry, it's confirmed. It's just
So
it's so sad. Like, how evil do you have to be that the people that supposedly love you can't even genuinely cry for you? Like, there's no genuine tear there. It's like, and then the guy's like, no tears. Yeah, people hate that guy. So, hey, oh, by the way, I saw something that really pissed me off today. I'm not gonna say who because they might watch the channel, but someone put waiting for all the Christian Zionists who cheered the attack on Iran go to church on Sunday and like praise God. Like, what? Like, what is wrong with you people? Why do I have to be a Zionist? Why does Israel even matter in this situation for someone who like for someone like me who wants Christians there to be free, who wants people to not be slaughtered in the middle of the street? Like, I don't care about the Israeli politics. I'm not saying the Israeli politics isn't involved, isn't part of the thing that made it happen, but there's like I can completely separate the two, by the way, even though Iranians aren't doing that. They're waving like Israeli flags and stuff, but I can completely separate the two. Israel might want something for their own good, for whatever cause or whatever issue they're having, and the thing that actually happens can be really good for the people that it's happening to, like Iranians, and good for Americans, and it's completely separated from Israel. Like, two different countries, okay, can have different reasons for doing something that has an outcome that's good for multiple people. It's totally possible. I'm not a Zionist. Okay, I didn't freaking bow down to Netanyahu. Okay, and then kiss my Israeli flag before going to church, and then that I didn't go to church and say, "Thank God, Israel is this is a prophecy that Israel will now grab more control of territory." Like, what the heck are you talking about? Like, that's not how we think. That's not your regular Christian. That's not even your regular Protestant Christian. We like no one's like licking Israel's boot here. We just realize that something can be really good.
Bro, this
for
is what I'm
Americans
talking
and for
about. When
Iranians.
it's not just that, it's people need to take a step back and legitimately ask themselves whether they're making these statements out of the facts or they had residual dislike and they're using this as an opportunity to speak against Israel. I'll tell you this: I've always been against and extremely skeptical of the nation state of Israel. Okay, I've had issues with them that are beyond what the talking points are. Like I've had issues with them for not recognizing the Armenian genocide. Like I don't get it. Doesn't make any sense to me why they wouldn't recognize the Armenian genocide. So I think there's been conflicts in Israel. So like there's internal stuff that I've been aware of that are close to my heart, and so I've had issues with Israeli politics, or even like even from a biblical perspective, I've had issues with it. Like people who are really adamant that these are this is the people of God and all this stuff. And I go, cool, I'm going to use all the Old Testament to hold them accountable to what the Old Testament teaches people to be. Right. And so if I'm going to criticize them, I'm going to criticize them the way the Old Testament prophets criticized Israel. Most of the Old Testament prophetic literature is a critique of the government of Israel, right? The nation state. It's calling kings to repentance. And so I think I've had a pretty healthy view of this stuff. So I don't have underlying issues like, oh, here's my opportunity to go at them. I've gone at them way before any of these things. If they've mistreated people who are in their land, my immediate thought has been, hey, the Bible says you should care for the foreigner in your land. Why are you not doing it? I think that's fair. I'm quoting their own scripture back to them, saying, why isn't this happening? And whatever, the conversation's going to happen. But there's it's very obvious to me. I was talking to a friend actually about this yesterday, an astute friend, good friend, Harut. And Harut said something that I thought was very, what's the word I'm looking for here? Perceptive. Okay. He said, Art, one of the things I've realized, a lot of people that I see that are anti-Israel all come from heavily dominated Muslim countries. By the way, we were talking about Armenians that are anti-Jew.
Yeah.
And he said a lot of these Armenians come from countries that are already anti-Jew. And it seems like they've taken on this Muslim view of the Jews, this Islamic view of the Jews, without realizing it. And then like it's a part of their lingo. And I was like, man, that's a really good observation. That's true. It's, you know, we're not naive enough to sit here and say people aren't impacted by their societies. I mean, clearly you and I are impacted by our American society. The way we think is very American. We're freedom-loving, gun-toting, flag-waving Americans. Right, Tom?
Of course.
Yeah. Not at the same time.
Just
We
not
don't have that
rednecks.
many-
We can't be rednecks.
Yeah, we're
That's
not
the only
rednecks.
thing we can't be.
No, we're just not. Because when we're under the sun, we actually get dark. We don't get burned.
Yeah. Hey, listen, man. I agree with you. The Israeli hate is so real, and it's so obvious. It's it's so strong. Where I feel like I would ask some of the people who like hate Israel. Okay, if like Israel did a thing like that you're very passionate about, like a political issue, like would you still hate them? And if the answer is yes, then like the hate goes beyond, you know, like how you think Israel conducts itself. You just genuinely probably are on the side that you believe every single issue in the world is linked somehow to Israel, and you technically give Israel more credit, and they live in your mind than the people who you call like Christian Zionists or whatever. Because everything for you about Israel, I'm an Arthur, I'm an American, okay, and I'm a Christian. Okay, I'm an American Christian with an Armenian ancestry, right? When I think about people in Iran being freed, I'm not thinking about, like, my main thought isn't an Israeli connection. My main thought isn't even as an American, believe it or not. Oh, he's not American. My main thought is for my brothers and sisters in Christ. That's my main thought. So I am an American. Okay, that's my national identity. But the people who were purchased by the blood of my Savior, I don't care what their nationality they're from. They matter to me. So you're telling me that I'm supposed to be nationalistic when it comes to my whatever national identity as an American, which I am. Anyone that knows me knows I am. I'm supposed to be nationalistic about that, okay? But the people that are my brothers and sisters in faith in the Lord, to them I'm supposed to be for them I'm supposed to be indifferent. And be like, well, no, I want to make sure my liberal neighbor next to me gets fully paid health care before I go and save the underground Christian brothers and sisters purchased by the blood of Jesus. Like, I'm sorry, if that is what even my side expects from me as an American, as a patriot, if that's what even my side expects from me, I ain't gonna do it, brother, because I don't care. I don't care how patriotic you want me to be. It's never gonna go above my brothers and sisters in the Lord, ever, 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 ever. They mean to me. They're my family. They're the ones that I will enjoy the presence of God with one day. Okay. So sorry that that's not gonna. So Israel is not on my mind 24/7. Okay, when I'm thinking about the Iran situation, it's not like, oh, this is just so the Epstein files were not released. This pervert Netanyahu. And then when you look at the ship they attacked and the way the Mossad was involved in geoengineering, I don't give a. Sorry, I don't give a. I don't care. there are certain things that come out of it. There's benefits that come out of it, like my brothers and sisters in the Lord being free to worship, like children not being slaughtered in the middle of the street, like women being able to show their freaking hair, y'all, their hair. Okay, people being free. Iran has killed with roadside bombings and with militias and with influence has been responsible for thousands of American deaths. So you can't say you care for America and say this has nothing to do with America. They funded 1 billion militias and people that have directly killed Americans. Okay, so this goes beyond your little blah 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 Israel, this that. This is important for many different reasons. Okay, and some of them I just stated. So that's what I think, generally speaking.
Well said.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. Like, look, I don't like, I was talking to some friends and the whole Israel conversation came up, and I was like, bro, why are you so butthurt about what they do?
Yeah.
Like, they care about their nation. Globally, they care about their nation, their populace. They've made, in my opinion, some genius policy moves. Their diaspora cares about their nation and does everything they can to support their nation. And there's biblical precedent for some of this stuff. For example, when they're in exile, the Lord says to them, you should care about the peace of Babylon. Live here, build homes, plant gardens, have children, marry them off. Like, God is telling them to prosper, and he will prosper them in Babylon when they're in exile. And so I'm pretty sure Jews look at that, who are in the diaspora, and say this could be applied in our context. We're Americans. We're going to seek the betterment of America. We're going to prosper in this land. We're going to do the following things, and then we're going to help Israel. Look, I'm giving you guys biblical examples that some people might think is a Zionism. And however, because Zionism could be explained differently. And again, I'm not a Zionist. I don't hold to that eschatology. I'm not a dispensationalist. None of that stuff matters to me because I don't hold to any of those things. But I'm biblically trying to show you guys how people can process this sort of information. Like when you get the rebuilding of the walls of Jerusalem with Ezra and Nehemiah, right? You get individuals that are in a foreign country. In that case, they're in Persia, and they go to the king of Persia, and what do they say? Hey, we can't. Let me actually read this so people understand their Bibles. Part of the problem is a lot of people don't read their the Old Testament. Okay.
Yeah, it's like you can't even read the Old Testament now because you're a Zionist.
Oh yeah, because it's the Jew book.
Like look, can I be real with you, Arthur? As you're finding that, that's genuinely how I feel sometimes. I feel like I feel like if I'm talking to someone or if I'm trying to express my faith and talk about the Old Testament and Israel and things of that sort, it's like the nation state of Israel has taken over to a point that these retards on my side, on the right, they hate the modern state of Israel so much that I feel like I've seen comments, by the way, from people, like prominent people, saying like, oh, I care about what the New Testament and my Jesus has to say. Like serious people. I'm talking about serious people.
Yeah.
Like
not realizing that Jesus
my
wrote the Old
Jesus is
Testament.
different from the God of the Old Testament. Like, you realize how stupid you sound? Like, you realize how disgusting that is, and the way you're equivocating like the modern state of Israel, okay, who is just like any other state, can have issues, okay, and they could do evil things or good things, to like the Old Testament that talks about God's promises and how God called out a people and how he brought salvation through them and stuff like that. When you jumble those two together and don't discourage Christians from even using that kind of language, now they can't even mention Israel, like you're messing with the word of God. And I think that's super gross, by the way. That's super gross.
So check this out. I agree about it. This is Nehemiah 1. The word of the Lord, the words of Nehemiah, the son of Hakaliah. Now it happened in the month of Chislev, in the 20th year, I was in Susa, the citadel, that Hanani, one of my brothers, that means that one of my brothers means he's a Jew, but very important, came with certain men from Judah, and I asked them concerning the Jews who escaped. who had survived the exile, and concerning Jerusalem. And they said to me, the remnant there in the province who had survived the exile is in great trouble and shame. The wall of Jerusalem is broken down and its gates are destroyed by fire. And so Nehemiah gets this, and then Nehemiah is bothered by this. Okay, so I'm not going to read verses 4 and on, but beginning of chapter 2, it says, because he prays to the Lord and all this stuff, and then chapter 1 ends, and it shouldn't end in chapter 1. This passage should be the beginning of chapter 2. This is just an example of bad chapter divisions. It says, now was cupbearer to the king. In the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, Persian king, by the way, when wine was before him, I took up the wine and gave it to the king. Now I had not been sad in his presence. And the king said to me, why is your face sad, seeing you are not sick? This is nothing but sadness of the heart. So the king is a perceptive individual, right? Like your soul is troubled within you. Then I was very much afraid. I said to the king, let the king live forever. Why should not my face be sad? When the city, the place of my father's graves, lies in ruins, and its gates have been destroyed by fire. Now let me tell you guys something. And some of you might not understand this. Okay. As people who are not living in the land of their fathers, I am a person who is not living in the land of my fathers. As a matter of fact, it's very difficult even to for me to think about that. That's a difficult concept. Like both Tom and I, by the way. Like the fact that when people ask Tom, where are you from? And he's got to be like, look, I'm Armenian, but I'm from Iran. And like he has to give some kind of a world history lesson. Just answer a simple question like, where are you from? It's complicated. So when I think about my ancestry and I think about the let's use his language here, the place of my father's graves. For me, for a very long time, 400 years, the place of my father's graves is in Iran. One of my dreams is to one day go to Iran and visit the graves of my fathers. There's plenty of them there. Before that, it's in Armenia. But even that is not in modern Armenia. Me and my brother have had conversations as to where our ancestry is from. Either there's two options. One is potentially my ancestry could be from the region of Lake Van. That's one. But that's in Turkey now. Right? And the other one is Nakhichevan, which is Azerbaijan now. But I'm Armenian and I have my heart bleeds for that country as well. So when things happen there, yes, I resonate. These words that come out of Nehemiah, many of you guys cannot resonate with this. Those of us who are immigrants and are still connected, like we resonate with this. When something bad happens in these countries, we're bothered in our spirit. We're very much like Nehemiah. And so I feel this. I feel connected to this. And I'm sympathetic to this. And the reason why I said this is because what ends up happening is it says, then the king said to me, what are you requesting? And he says, hey, look, I prayed to the God of heaven and said to the king, if it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor in your sight, that you send me to Judah, to the city of my fathers' graves, that I may rebuild it. And the king does, and you guys can go read the rest of Nehemiah. And if you do read Nehemiah, please read Ezra as well with it, because it's meant to be one book. And so whenever like these conversations come up, and people go, oh, these Zionists from America and England and this and that, you guys, they are looking. Not all the time. Some of them are looking at these texts and saying, look, Nehemiah was living in Persia. His ancestry had been in that land since the exile, which is in Babylon, by the way. So it's already been hundreds of years. Nehemiah's ancestry for hundreds of years has been in that region. That was Babylon, and then the Medo-Persian Empire took over, and then the Persian Empire took over. And he still cares about his homeland. And then And so when you get individuals that are in the diaspora of Jews who care about the nation of Israel, who want to build the nation of Israel, who want to utilize their influence and power to build the nation of Israel, I don't hate on them. You know why I don't hate on them? Is because if I had influence and power, and to the extent that I do have influence and power, I try to influence and build the place of my fathers, which is Armenia. Like, I actually do that. I have friends who run businesses, and so do you, Tom, who hire people from Armenia so they can use money and build up the economy in Armenia. And we don't hate on those people. We don't say, oh, this and that. If all things said, you can help them. You can help, obviously, the American economy and America and all that. Like, that's awesome. You want that.
And by the way, they all do that. So a lot of especially conservatives, I would say Republicans, say like, no, if you say things like that, you're not America first, blah blah. But they do that. For example, Donald J. Trump, he builds golfing, whatever it's called, golf courses in Scotland.
Yeah, where his ancestry's from.
Where his ancestry's from, and then he gives the Scottish economy money, and he puts something that advances their, whatever it is. It's like, y'all do that. You just have a problem when it's not like European. And it's not a difficult fix, by the way. It's an easy fix, guys. Just realize that you, like me and someone like Matt Walsh, are both Americans. Yeah, we both bought to the idea of Americanism. Okay, Matt Walsh has a longer, historically a longer generational existence in America.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't. I have a shorter one. Right? But we still believe in Americanism. We believe that America is great. Okay. Now, he can say something like, but it was my ancestors who who came here initially.
Hey, brother, let me share something with you before Matt Walsh can run his mouth about his ancestors. Okay. I wanna show you something really, really cool. Can you read what's on the screen right now?
I love that. I love Martin, the Armenian. Is he the one that brought like cigarettes or something?
Yeah, he was brought here. By the way, the Martin the Armenian, according to records, is the first Armenian we know that came to the United States. And he's the first Armenian known to have moved to America. He arrived at Jamestown, Virginia in 1618 when the colony was 11 years old. And he came here for like silk farming, and I think he was given as a payment a bunch of tobacco to like farm tobacco and all that stuff. There's another guy after him that was brought. I'm forgetting his name, and I think he's George the Armenian, if I'm not mistaken. It seems like from all the records, notice here, he born in New Julfa. Both of these guys seems that they were Iranian Armenians who were living in Holland at the time. So there's all sorts of connections, really, really cool connections you can make here. But before Matt Walsh can say his ancestors did X, Y, and Z, our ancestors came here and were a part of the building of America as well from the beginning.
And by the way, and looking back at your ancestry or your homeland, and homeland, I sound like a Candace. Homeland. Look at your homeland, and you have an affinity towards it. That doesn't mean you're less American. Now, if you start placing, like, for example, if every single one of my, every single dollar I make starts leaving the United States, if I start like not caring about the U.S. economy or society or what's happening here at all, and I start pledging allegiance to another country, that's weird. I would say,
yes.
By the way, I can probably say I'm pro not allowing dual citizenship as an American. That's at least my point of view. But just because you have an affinity or you love where your ancestors or your parents or other generations came from, doesn't mean that you love America any less. because you don't have to, like, Arthur, you don't have to pledge allegiance to Armenia to love them and to care for their politics.
Oh, absolutely.
You don't have to say, like, I will die for Armenia, but I will not, I will not give an ounce of blood for America. Like, you don't, it doesn't have to be that way. It can be you love where you're from, you want to support them, you want to see those people succeed. They look like you know what I mean? Like, you have a certain.
But look, I would even argue,
That's
Tom,
it.
that this is the Christian. This should be the Christian mindset.
Yeah, of course.
Right. Like, so do I, for example, I live on a street. I have a house on a street, right? I have neighbors on my side. I have neighbors in front of me. Do I want my neighbors to succeed?
Of course you do.
Of course I do. Because I want my neighbors to have great jobs. I want my neighbors to have great children, who are well-rounded, because that's good for my neighborhood. Our house prices will increase. If my neighbors make more money, they're going to fix up their homes. It's going to look better. It's going to be better. It's going to benefit me. If my neighbors' kids aren't thugs and they're well-rounded kids, I'm not going to be afraid for my children to go outside and play. I'm not going to be afraid for my kids to, I'm not going to be afraid that they're going to rob my house. I'm going to feel safe parking my car outside. So I want not only for myself to succeed, and I'm going to drive for that, but I want my neighbors to succeed. And if there's something I can do for them to succeed, I will do it. I'll give you an example. These are all hypotheticals, right? Suppose I start a business and I get into a conversation with my neighbor. This is the way sometimes it used to be, right? Like, I get into a conversation with my neighbor and my neighbor goes, man, my son's 18 years old. He's looking for a job and stuff like that. And I know the kid, I've seen him around. I've seen him. He grew up in front of me. And I go, he's a good, well-rounded kid. He needs a job, first job. Hey, bro, let me talk to your son. Hey, are you willing to come work for me? Yes, I am. Great. I'm going to hire you. Come work for me. He's going to work for me, let's just say, and I'm benefiting, he's benefiting. Like, why would I not do that? Why would I not hire my neighbor's son?
Exactly.
If I'm going to do that on a local scale, on a small scale, then I think it's possible to do that on a global scale. So if people are like, why, you shouldn't care about these nations you're from and stuff like that, and they think that's what it means for America first, I'm gonna look at them and I'm going to say no. For the same reason, I can hire my neighbor and somebody comes and tells me, hey, why are you making off of this kid? Why are you making money off of this kid? It's like, oh, it's a business, but I'm paying him, right? Like, he's benefiting from it. I'm benefiting. So if I'm making money and I'm running a business in America and it's a service, and I'm hiring people in different places in the world for their lives to become better, right? So I benefit, the Americans benefit by the service I'm giving to them. These people I'm hiring somewhere else, it benefits them. Like, everybody wins. It's a win-win. This is why capitalism rules.
Yeah. Also, it's understandable. Like, if I were to go to Armenia, let's say I'm not an Armenian. Let's say I'm not ethnically an Armenian, okay? And I were to go to Armenia and I would have children there. And let's say 2 generations in, and all of a sudden, let's say I'm Chinese, right? And then all of a sudden, like, something happens in China and I show interest, but I'm like, no, I'm still an Armenian. Like, you could see some Armenians being like, hey, bro, like, if you're an Armenian, if you consider yourself an Armenian, like, why are you so, like, pro? Like, I get it. The point I'm trying to make, Art, is like, these people have parents and grandparents and great grandparents who have fought in wars for America, who have laid down their lives for America. So it's woven in the fabric, right? So when someone like you and I, even if, by the way, even politically, we're more conservative than they are, right? It's especially on my side, on the right, it's this fear they have that, like, if you are from somewhere else and haven't spent multi-generations in America, that for some reason you don't appreciate what America has to give. And my response to someone like that would be, brother, sister in the Lord, you have liberals that have the same generational length that you have in America, okay? whose parents have probably fought
Yeah.
in wars, grandparents have fought war, they're from the European countries, that absolutely despise America,
That's right.
that despise everything it stands for, that despise, Americanism, that have no patriotism in their bones, right? So like, look at those people. Aim your arrows that way.
Yeah.
Not at the people who love the country, who love America, but at the same time have some, connection elsewhere. Like, that's your problem? Out of all the problems, that's your problem? Not some random liberal white lady whose parents came here 250 years ago? That's like, America needs to fall.
But it's also a very naive and ignorant view of history. I'll give you an example.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, examples matter. The founders of this country were divided in their loyalties until they were pushed to the brink, because they still saw themselves as British citizens.
Good point.
Do you not think they had cousins in England? Do you not think they had businesses and loyalties in England? Of course they did. Go look at the records. Of course they did. Even though they were geographically separate and it took a long time for them to travel back and forth, they still existed. They still saw themselves as such. This is partly why I really enjoyed, and I think everybody should go watch the speech that Marco Rubio gave in Berlin. And one of the things he said, America is a child of Europe. We're connected. We're connected in many ways. And we care about you. We're not against you. We want your betterment as someone who's come from you. And so you can have loyalties, not just one loyalty. I think that's incorrect ways of thinking. Like, for example, I have loyalties to my family. I have loyalties to my wife. I have loyalties to my children. But I also have loyalties to my neighbors and my church community. And I have loyalties to my parents and my brothers. I mean, those are different kinds of loyalties, obviously. But they're there. And the same is true when people speak that way, Tom. Again, it's their ignorance. They don't know how to think about things on a more complicated, nuanced level, and they want Twitter style kind of bumper sticker answers to things. For example, Sepp, who's in here, said a very interesting point. He said, Arthur and Tom, what happens if interests collide? America versus Armenia. Now, the answer he wants is an extremely simplistic answer. And I'm not going to give him that, but I'm going to give him a real answer. Well, it matters who's right and who's wrong. Does it not? Or is truth non-existent anymore? And even though, let's just say Armenia is wrong in something, I'm be like, no, I don't care if they're wrong. Like, that's stupid. That's not Christian. Christians ought to be individuals that are constantly in pursuit of truth because we worship the God that is true, and he's the God of truth.
Yeah.
I am the way, the truth.
Should be to God.
Yeah, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Nobody comes to the Father except through me. Jesus claimed to be the truth. Sorry, say that. I didn't hear what you just said.
Me?
Yeah.
And I said, just to your point, and our initial loyalty is to God.
Amen.
Like,
and that's what a
anything else.
Christian view should be. So my initial loyalty is to God, first and foremost. And so my response to that would be, depends who's right and wrong. And if America's in the wrong, I will call America to repentance in that. And if Armenia's in the wrong, then I will call Armenia to repentance. And if it's not necessarily that clear, if it's a more complicated situation, which quite often it is a lot more complicated situation, I will do everything to the best of my abilities for the betterment of both. And so the answer to that is not that simple. I'm not going to make a comment. See, here's maybe what you're fishing for. I don't know if the question was completely sincere, Seb, considering the stuff you've said in the past. If I said America, you would have called me a traitor and said something like, this is what Protestantism does, so you hate Armenians and stuff like that. If I said Armenia, then it makes me look like, contradicting the stuff I've been saying this entire time. So, but the answer you got is a truthful answer to that.
Let me ask you a question, Arthur. If you were to become president of the United States, let's assume
I can't because I wasn't born here.
Okay, let's change it. Let's say your son, your oldest son,
Yes.
becomes president of the United States, and there's a scenario where he has to make a decision that maybe doesn't benefit Armenia or actually hurts Armenia in a sense, but it clearly benefits the United States. For example, Turkey says if you want to place your some American base in our country or somewhere we control, then you have to stop doing technology, your technology contracts with Armenia, something like that. And we're at a time, let's say, where we really need to have that base in Turkey. As an Armenian, okay, how would you give wisdom to your child to make?
I'd be in front of the White House.
That would really hurt.
I'd be in the White House, in front of the White House protesting. Look, I'll say this. This is a very good question. Very good question. And Steph says, Arthur, that's a legit answer. Thank you. Here's what I would say. Number one, I'm against politicians having dual citizenships. So I'm not against people generally having dual citizenships, because I think there are situations in which maybe it's necessary. But I am against people who are elected officials. So if somebody is a dual citizen and they want to go into politics, I think they got to give up their citizenship and go into politics. I'm fundamentally for that. So when you become a politician in the United States, you take an oath, right? And the oath you take is that you're going to defend the affairs of the United States against enemies, foreign and domestic. And so what you are saying before God, if you're taking an oath and you're a Christian, you're doing it before God. And what you are taking a vow to is to care for the interests of the people that elected you into that position. You have an oath. And I would teach my son to be a man of his word. And I do teach my son to be a man of his word. Let your yes be a yes and your no be a no. And so if you have been elected to lead this great nation, your allegiance is to the people of this great nation. And then you can develop this, by the way, when it comes to ethical and moral theory in regards to caring for those that are immediately in your vicinity. So there's an ethical way of doing it. It's not like you don't like Armenia more or less or whatever like that. Is that your responsibility to care for individuals are those that are closest to you, whether geographically or relationally or something like that. That's why I don't pay for my neighbor's rent. I pay for my own rent, right? I pay for my own mortgage because I have a responsibility over those closest to me. And again, geographically and locationally. Geographically and relationally. It could be that I have a lot more money and I have a good job, and then I find people in my church and I pay their mortgage, let's say, because I'm relationally closer to them than my neighbor actually next door. So you can develop this, like ethical theory has done a pretty good job, and we have the categories for it. It's not a question that people haven't thought through. And I would say, I would train, and I do train my son predominantly in this way of, hey, be a man of your word. And if you're going to lead a country, you have a responsibility to the people of that country who elected you or didn't elect you. Your responsibility is nonetheless, as the leader of that country, to lead them. And so I would say, weigh up your options. Like if he called me in and said, Dad, I need some advice on this because you're a great philosopher and you know this stuff. I'd sit with him and we go through pros and cons and in what ways that benefits first and foremost the United States. Now, it could get a bit more complicated than that. Now, I don't want to get into that, but it can get complicated. I'll give you an example. When I was in seminary, I took an ethics class, I took normative ethics. And this is when all the Syrian stuff was happening. All the situation in Syria was happening. And America was confronted with and we're thinking about who to accept as refugees into the United States. And one of the things I said was, I said, I think we should come up with a policy in which we accept minorities who are being persecuted first. So the policy would have been something like, right now we are only taking in Christians and Yazidis, because those were the two groups of people that were being persecuted. So it could be that there are a bunch of, pros on that side. Like the example you gave, I'm just going to go with that example. Suppose it's like Turkey and it's beneficial and all this stuff, but we figure out like Turkey's trying to be expansionist and they want to wipe out Armenia. Then the situation changes, because there's a greater moral need, the eradication of an entire state and people, than whatever's going to benefit the United States. So it could be potentially a situation in something in which it will not benefit the United States. It will actually hurt the United States, but we're morally obligated to do it. See, this is the stuff I'm bringing up, Tom.
That's, by the way, what you just said.
Yeah,
but what you just said is so important.
Yes,
like
I realize that.
Like I would love it if you would actually take that, clip it out, and put it into a 15-20-second video, because that's so important what you just said. Where it's sometimes your own good, okay, is not as important at the moment as your neighbors, if it comes to let's say a greater moral issue there. So if I were to, let's say, if I were to lose my savings account, and in turn have a little more risky situation in raising my family, but I know I could let's say I'm the only one who can or let's say a different situation. Let's say I have to give up my kidney, and that's it's like you can say things like, well, what if your kid needs your kidney in the future? What if your wife needs your kidney in the future? But I know I'm the only match for my neighbor who lives next to me, or for someone else in the community, and that person is a 10-year-old kid who's gonna die. It's like it seems to be the more moral decision at that moment to say, you know what, I'm going to give up my kidney and let that person live, and then I'll trust God to take care of me and my family. That what you just said is such a great thing that needs to be said more, put out there. And that's not being a traitor to your country. That's realizing that countries and nation states are not greater than God's people and His creation, and the moral principles He's given to us. It sometimes transcends where you live or what flag you're loyal to.
Yeah, and it's a Christian answer, because a part of the Christian ethic is self-sacrifice. So it's a very Christian answer. This is why I am just at this point, and over the last 2 weeks, I've just been frustrated and completely over individuals that simplistically think about politics, that are conspiratorial in their thinking, and from my observations, have very, very, very little critical thinking that happens, and they don't think about situations and the impact situations can happen, and they're not in any leadership positions in their lives. The decisions they make only impact them. And one of the things that I've realized, like being in church leadership, is the decisions I make impacts a bunch of other people. And so I need to be very, very careful as to the decisions I make, and very wise and caring.
Yeah.
And there could be decisions that I make that are detrimental to me. Yesterday I was having a conversation. We had a church meeting last night, and somebody asked me a question about Bible studies. And then I was sharing, and then they said, but their answer was kind of like, I enjoy it. And I stopped him and I said, brother, in principle, I agree with you. But the difference between me and you is that you are caring about what's good for you. I have to think about what's good for the collective people as an elder in this church. And so even though I agree with you and I want what you want personally, when I put on the hat of being a leader, that goes out the window. What I want goes out the window. I got to think collectively. Like there are situations in which, for example, I think about like, oh, this is the way I would want it for my kid. This is the way I would want it for my family. But I can't think like that when I'm considering other people's kids, other people's families. And so you try to come up with a balance to you. And again, I try to showcase this to the best of my abilities when it comes to these conversations. One of the things I've realized is lots and lots of people don't know how to get out of that mindset. So they have only one mode of existence and one mode of thinking, and it's essentially what they want. And so I want to think a lot broader than that. So again, something could be detrimental, something could just be bad and impact your own country in a bad way. But I think you're morally obligated to make that decision, even if it harms your country, for the betterment of your neighbor. I think that's a non-negotiable when it comes to like doing ethics properly. And it's an important point. We'll try to clip that out since you recommended that. Look, there's a bunch of questions I've kind of favorited here in comments. First and foremost, big thank you for the super chat that came in the euros.
Wow.
In the euro, look at that. Euros coming in. We have an
Arthur, can I just say something before you read any?
Yeah. Before you,
comments?
but hang on, bro. We're talking about how we have an international audience on this channel. People are giving with all sorts of foreign currencies, so that's cool. This is blessings to you, brothers. God bless you. Thank you. I'm sorry I'm late to this, but appreciate the support. Go ahead, Tom.
I already thanked that one. I think.
Yeah, that's okay. I didn't.
So I was listening to a prominent Catholic say something to the extent of no nation has a right to exist, meaning that a nation only has the right to exist is if it can defend itself, if it can make sure it can exist. So his point was that there's maybe a few nations that actually can do that, and that essentially those are the only ones that have the right to exist, and the other one of them are just being held in place, or they're keeping the lights on because of other powers who are assisting them in that matter. And this person is a very prominent Catholic. And the question that quickly came into my mind as I was listening to that is would you feel the same way about the Vatican? Would you feel the same way?
Because it's a nation, by the way. The Vatican is a nation.
Yeah, it is a nation, exactly. But even let's say it wasn't a nation, even let's say it was part of Italy. Like, let's say it was just Italy, and there was a little Vatican as a city or something that existed within there, and a greater power who was, let's say, very anti Christianity, even in that sense, anti-Catholicism. Let's say Turkey rose up and said, you know what, you can't defend yourself, Vatican, or you can't defend yourself, Italy. We're going to take over. It's like, would you say the same thing? Would you still say that country doesn't have the right to exist, or that maybe right isn't the right word, but that country shouldn't exist?
Yeah.
If it can't defend itself.
Heck no, bro. You know what they would do? They'll do everything in their power to get the U.S. to get involved in a situation like that. So they'd be inconsistent.
So it's like these people are inconsistent because when it comes to things that their shared history, it matters for them, whether it's religion, whether it's whatever, Ireland or Scotland or England, it's like all of a sudden, or Italy, all of a sudden it's like, oh, we must care. How could we not? But when it comes to other people expressing those same kind of things, like I don't want Armenia. Okay, forget Armenia. I don't want any like small nation that has people that have historically lived there and stuff like that to just get taken over and destroyed just because they can't build a big military to support themselves.
And the idea behind that even is, I would say, anti-Catholic, because now you're just like encouraging nation states to be expansionists.
Yeah.
Right. Like it doesn't seem to me that that's a very well thought out way of, proclaiming that. like if we were to take the equivalent of that, right? Remember, because if a theory is consistent, then it's something you should believe. If it's inconsistent and falls apart in different scenarios, then it's just a bad idea. So if we were to take that and said the only people that have the right to live are people who can care for themselves physically or economically and stuff. Like that just seems to me flat out anti-Catholic at the very least. I'm just holding that person up to their own faith. Right? I mean, it's definitely anti-Christian in regards to the Christian ethic, because we are to care for the least of these. And I think I'm being a lot more consistent with my Christianity in saying if I'm going to care for the needs of those that are close to me geographically or relationally, then I think as countries we ought to do that as well. As a society, we need to do that, and we do that reasonably, right? Like I don't bankrupt my own house to care for my neighbor. Like my kids don't starve over me doing that. Like there's a reasonableness to doing that, and I think that could be applied on a national scale. So this is why I'm okay with, as an immigrant in this country, I'm okay with the borders being monitored and controlled, and then limiting the amount of immigrants we bring to America, partially because it can become overwhelming over the safety net that we have in America. And we should have a safety net, by the way. So I'm not for a welfare state, but I think we should always have a safety net. I think it's a Christian idea behind that, a biblical idea behind that. The Old Testament, there are safety nets. I think we can develop safety nets in society that are reasonable and well grounded. And so, but there's a wisdom to that, right? Like, so if you just flood your country with more people than you can actually care for, you're going to collapse your economy. You're not going to be able to be any good to anyone. So just listen to the reasonableness of this. And everybody would do this, and everybody does this. In my opinion, it's just hilarious to me. Like all of my rich liberal friends who are constantly moaning over the immigration policy, I look at their homes. They live in the mountains. They got all this stuff. They have an amazing home and all this stuff. They have security all over their homes. And I'm just like, bro, I laugh at you because you aren't even aware of your existence and the way you live your life. I know you. You would never you won't allow your children to come into your car with dirty shoes. Let alone you're talking about bringing people in that we can't care for and all that stuff, right? And so there's definitely proper founded worldviews that have to come into the pictures here. And quite often, the problem is quite often we have ignorant individuals, and we have, just really, like sometimes we have people that are more empathetic. The whole concept of toxic, is it toxic empathy or sympathy? I don't know which one it is.
Yeah. Toxic
like
empathy.
toxic empathy. Like you have those people. On the other side, you have people who like think they're logicians, and like people stop existing and they just look like numbers, which I think is a wrong way of going about it as well. I think there's actually a middle ground here to think Christianly, to think biblically on how we're going to care for ourselves, how we're going to care for our neighbors, and just be good to society. Like those things all matter to me. And I want to think and process information and try to influence others to do that, partially because we live in societies where we can vote. And if I can influence people to vote in regards to having those things in the back of their mind, rather than voting based on the 30-second commercial they saw or something like that, then I've done great good to the world. And I think we're producing a better and well-rounded society in regards to the way I live my life.
Yes.
But all of these things matter. Let me see what some of the comments are here. I'll go with Sean says, science and logic and critical thinking isn't a religion. I'm going to remind me, Tom. Remind me, there's a clip from a movie. I think it's Billy Madison, where it's something like that has to be the, what's the, let me see if it's, Remind me to clip that, because what you said is the most nonsensical thing on the planet, Sean. I don't know who you're arguing against. Science and religion and critical thinking isn't a religion. Well, duh. I don't even know how to respond to that. It's so dumb.
Man, Sean really has the ability to get on your nerves, man.
Yeah, it's just he says things that just like bro, we've had enough conversation. We've had enough conversations with each other at this point for you to have learned a thing or two from me and about me. Like Sean, if I spent as much time with some students that I interact with as I have with you, they'd be so well off in life. And the fact that you aren't tells me that you have a inability to actually listen to what I'm saying, and just like you just really don't want it, and that's sad. It's really sad. I know Evelyn has left because she said she'll catch in her country. It's a different time zone, but I want to respond to this because it's important in the mind of a lot of people. She said, is the current state of Iran something to think about when contemplating the end times prophecies, or is this just another stepping stone? I know. Constant questions within charismatic circles. So if a certain version of premillennial eschatology is correct, then yes, Iran is instrumental in regards to the end of the world stuff. But if it's not correct, and I don't think it is correct, then no, it's not. So it really depends on somebody's view of eschatology. Narek says, do you guys think regime change will actually happen? This is a very good question, Tom. Because it's very obvious to me that Trump is not doing that, or doesn't want to do that, is essentially saying, constantly has said, the American statement has been, you guys need to take over your own country, to the Iranian people. Take over your country. We're giving you guys the opportunity to take over your country. I think it won't just yet. So a lot more. Does that make sense? A lot more. Forget that a lot. So more of the leadership, more of the senior leadership needs to be taken out before I think the Iranian people can do that. I also think within Iran, there needs to be some political figures, some leaders who kind of rise and lead the people. That's extremely necessary for this to actually happen. Nothing has really happened when it comes to regime change. We haven't seen anything. So I hope so. It'd be really bad, I think, if through all of these things, it didn't happen. Tom, do you have something to say about that?
Yeah, I generally agree with you. I think that it's very difficult when you talk about a country where they've been under strict Islamic control, a strict regime. It's hard to build like an opposition. Somebody was talking about the apartheid South Africa situation, where there was still like an African Congress where even during the apartheid, they were kind of working and equipping themselves. So when I don't know the history perfectly, but I guess when Nelson Mandela was released and that opportunity arose for them, they had some kind of built institution that could do it. Iranians, unfortunately, they haven't had that opportunity. If you had, if you voiced dissent in any real way, you probably put to death. So when a situation like this comes up, where there's the opportunity, right, for you to go in there and potentially, have a new form of government, you haven't done the kind of the groundwork in order to create some kind of legitimate opposition that could walk in there and then take over the institutions, take over the courts, take over the the nitty gritty administrative kind of stuff. So it's not that the people are incapable; it's that people generally haven't had the opportunity. So this is why I personally think that as much as it needs to come from within, that it would need to be someone like the crown prince that has a sort of a backing from a foreign power like the United States that could be given direction, do this, do that, bring these people in, bring that person on board. And at the end of the day, like I mentioned in the beginning, there has to be some level of like pressure from the United States and from other countries to people in Iran, like even those who are currently in the government that would maybe remain in some positions. There has to be enough pressure. No one wants to die. As much as these people claim that they're martyrs and stuff like that, this is why they have bunkers and stuff. This is why they hide, because they don't really want to die,
Mhm.
so with enough pressure, I think you can make change. But whether or not look, what people don't understand is regime change. Like when you say something like regime change, do you like realize something? The death of the Ayatollah is not like the death of a president or the death of a king, even. Okay. You're talking about the death of you're talking about the United States taking out someone who's both the political leader and the religious leader. Okay. So this person has a greater importance to his followers, especially the Shia Islam, than a king or a president does. So when you take someone like that out, right, people think it pumps them up. I think you demoralize them. Like anybody you put in his position will take out. Like that's demoralizing. So my point being is that it's been a great impact for justice and for truth, even if regime change doesn't happen immediately or it doesn't look exactly how you want the final product
Yeah.
to look like. It might take some time. There might be some, like some inner fighting and things like that to eventually get to that point. But taking out this guy immediately within the first couple hours of the strike and stuff like that, that's already an accomplishment. And it's an accomplishment because you see the Iranian people celebrating and they're joyful about it. So
Yeah, and it's
yes, I
not
think
just
it will
him.
come.
It's a bunch of other
Yeah,
people
of
as
course.
well.
Bunch of them. It will come. It'll just take some time. And I pray that it doesn't actually become a situation where you have a major civil war and you have instability for 10, 15, 20 years. You have terrorism. Like, I hope it doesn't get to that.
Yeah.
But I think the Iranian people are too prideful in a good way, and they love their country too much. Even I would say the more pro-regime people, regular people, okay, they love their country too much to allow outside like terroristic forces to enter and kind of completely destroy the country.
Yeah.
I pray it doesn't get there in Jesus' name. I pray it doesn't. So
And
those are my thoughts.
there's some again, Agape had asked some questions about Bible prophecy and stuff like that, and let me just whether it could be for Persia. I'm not going to look at the text. I think she's talking. I don't know what actually the passage here is. It says 49. But my general reaction to stuff like that is, I don't think those things are about what's happening modern days. But Ivan says, will it be possible to have debate or reason? Sorry, not a debate. Will it be possible to have debate or reason through things in heaven? If we worship God with our minds, I would assume that would continue in heaven. But at the same time, what would be debate? This is a really good question. I love this question. There is in certain segments of Christian theology that I'm sympathetic to, the idea of what's called continual sanctification in heaven. And so people have thought about this a bit differently, and it's across the board, by the way. It's not just like with Protestants or something. Some people think when we talk about glorification, we're talking about like everything, you're fully sanctified and all that stuff. And you could be fully sanctified in one sense, but still have room for growth in a couple of other ways. And so I think that's definitely a real possibility. What would we debate? I don't know, man. I think there's probably a lot of things about the world that you and I don't know about now, and then there's definitely going to be a lot of stuff that we won't know in eternity, and maybe those would be fun conversations to have. Now, there is an interesting conversation to be had as to what does it look like with the lack of knowledge and being wrong about things. Like, would we have the potential to be wrong on a subject? And so, yeah, I think this is a fun conversation to have. And I'm not very sure whether we can have an actual legitimate answer to it. But it's something to think about. Okay. If all religions is man-made, oops, oh man, sorry, I got rid of that. I think the conversation was like religions being man-made. Okay, so it cannot be yes and no. Believe me, even what you say is true, and there is no truth. Atheists will make a god and religion. Okay. That was connected to it. Do you two think, I love the way this guy just approaches us. Do you two, you people. It's that British snobbery. Do you two think that one has to care much about their ancestry? My parents seem to think that you have to. What do you think, Tom? You think you have to care much about your ancestry?
Yeah, I think it's kind of sad if like so many people had to go through so many things in order for us to be born. Like there's that chart of like your great parents had to do this, then they had to survive this, then they had to do this, then the chance of surviving this disease was this, and and all for you to eventually be born. I think it would be a disservice to them if we didn't actually, you know, think about them and where we came from and care about it. Yeah, so I would say you do. I would say you shouldn't get like it's just crazy to me where people get so into it. Like I don't know, man. I don't feel comfortable like giving out my DNA to like some company to figure it out. Like I don't care about it that much because I don't want someone having my DNA just like in some system. Even though
yeah, but I don't think that's what he's
we would
asking.
give
I think he's asking.
yeah,
like,
yeah, I know.
should
It
we
was just
care
like
about- yeah.
my mind immediately went to like ancestry.com
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that. But yeah, you should to a certain extent care, of course. I do. But it sucks for us because like someone like Nick Quint, I'm sure the very Reverend Nick Quint, if he wanted to check his ancestry, he would just he has the privilege of being a white American, so he would put it into a computer, then they would track it back to all the beautiful documentations he have, and he would know who his great grandfather was. If I were to put it in, I'd probably stop at myself because I don't know how these ancestry websites would have anything about my family or where we were misplaced or what country took us over, or maybe it would just say you're from a certain region or whatever.
That's it.
Ain't no way they would know my far, long lost cousin or whatever. And also for us as Armenians, it would be shameful if we didn't know who our family members were. Like we wouldn't be okay with having some family member in Kansas that we're unaware of. So I think we're aware of all our family members, at least in our community. So.
Yeah,
And Nick,
try to be.
Nick Quint, Nick. I don't know why I call him Nick Quint. I just love saying his last name.
Yeah.
He says, so when do we run for Congress? I can.
Yeah, I was going to read that. That was the next comment. It's a question.
The only person that can run for Congress is you. It would be Arthur and I who would be.
He said, I can be your head of campaign and chief advisor. Yeah, if we had you run and we were advising you, it'd be a lot better.
Yeah.
You got the face
You got the face and the smile and
the skin tone.
The ancestry.
I agree, by the way. Look, I am a big fan of caring about where I came from and the survival that my people had to go through. I'm also a history nut, and so I just enjoyed that. I always have. I don't remember a time where I didn't enjoy looking at the history of the world, of peoples, and specifically my people. And so, yeah, I think I love my language. I teach my kids my language. I want my kid, specifically one of my sons really struggles with Armenian, And I'm always like, bro, you got to get on it. Like, I don't want you talking half English. Like, you think you're talking Armenian, but half the words are in English. Like, that doesn't work. You need to fix it up. And so I think that's an important part of who we are. Part of the reason is, and I've said this before, my reading of scripture is that there is an aspect of God's intention in regards to our ancestry and our heritage, and there's a sacredness to it. And so I look at it theologically and I go, if God, in his great wisdom, thought it a good idea for Arthur to be born Armenian, there's something to that. And so I value that quite a bit. And I think so should others. Like, it's not like mine's better than yours. It's they're both sacred and they're both a part of the plan of God, and you should care about it. There's segments within Western culture that think that you shouldn't, and my response to that is that's just stupid assimilation, because then you lose complete identity of who you are. And then we get all the weird liberals with pink hair. Tom and Arthur we had to survive COVID and high fructose corn syrup and traffic for the next gen to live. Amen to that. Also, all the chash we've eaten.
Seriously.
That's the first time Tom answered questions of mine, and I'm struggling for an objection.
Who is this?
That was Jerome. Do you have a button for that we can hit and say bam?
Yeah, I do have a bam, but I haven't been using much of my buttons today, but I have the boom. Does that work?
Yeah, that works. Oh, he was responding to you. Okay, Salwa said that she said, I said atheism can be viewed as somewhat a religion. I get that it's logic and science. I was meaning per se. Yeah, I mean.
Oh, you're totally right on that.
Yeah, the thing is that anything that is a set of beliefs that a person holds to could be categorized as a religion. And so it's not always like people have a bad definition, I think, sometimes of religion. Like, for example, they assume like religion it has to involve like deities. But like then you get forms of Buddhism that are non-theistic. It's non-theistic Buddhism. And it's still religious because there are religious activities that are done. This is what I'm saying. This is why we use language like an individual watches sports religiously. Think about that kind of language. So, yeah, it definitely could be. It's just I wouldn't say, and not that you're saying this, I wouldn't say that everybody who is an atheist views it in that sense, because not all do. Jerome says, good answers in all seriousness. I struggle to care for mine, and I often have. I feel distant, and my parents like to pride talk their own countries in ways that I find strange. You two often have smart things to say. Somehow, you're a life advice channel. Well, it's just called application of theology, I guess. If by that you mean life advice, sure. God bless you. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Has there been any developments? I've had Twitter open and trying to see if there's been any developments in regards to what's going on.
No, nothing major from what I've been looking at. Bill Clinton's videos are being released.
Okay.
On the Epstein files. That's another issue, though.
Yeah, well, he's just probably going to say, I didn't know anything. I had no idea. I mean, it's not like we should trust this guy. He literally stood in front of the world and said, I did not have sexual relations with that woman. And he did. and he also tried to sidestep it by saying it really depends what the definition of is. So that guy telling us he wasn't involved in the Epstein stuff when there's quite a bit of evidence that he was, to me says.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem
listen,
like
I got to drop.
much.
I got to drop. I don't know if you're still going to stay on, But I sent you a video that I feel like it would be nice to end with. So when you
Hey.
do end,
By the way, I was listening to Pete Hegseth earlier today. He gave a thing, like a breakdown.
Mm.
I don't know if you saw this. But it's him and Raisin Kane, the general. And they were talking about
Yes.
the different branches of the military that have been involved in these operations. And I find it interesting that, and I think people should pay attention to this, that they will say something like, he said, we've deployed a bunch of weapons, and he mentioned them, like, you know, UAVs and this and this and that. And then he goes, well, and some classified weapons, which was very interesting. Like, you got to catch that. And then he goes, well, we just want to thank the Air Force, the Navy, the Army, and the Space Force. And he just moved on. I think the United States has deployed some satellite weapons that is categorized within the Space Force in this conflict that has never been deployed. That's my conspiracy theory for today.
Yeah. Hey, if you really want to know, by the way, the power and strength of the American military, this is a funny fact. I was searching up. I was searching this up and just cracking up. The most powerful Air Force in the world is the United States Air Force. You know who comes in second, Arthur?
Who?
The U.S. Navy.
Go away!
I'm dead serious. The U.S. Navy is the second most powerful Air Force in the world. And after that comes Russia. Okay. And after Russia comes other branches of the U.S. government. Or
Bro,
US,
that's such a
military.
flex.
Sorry.
That's like saying I'm the richest person. Do you know who's the second richest person? My wife.
Yeah. That's just the strength of the U.S. military, by
That's
the way.
a flex right there.
Yeah, that's something to
Oh,
be
man.
proud of.
I'm going to play this video that Tom sent me. And I just pulled it up, and it says, I'm trying to find my mouse. There it is. Persians thank President Trump after Iran's supreme leader is eliminated. Are these like all across the world?
I think this is in L.A. But
You think this is LA? Okay.
I sent you this. You might have seen it.
Hey, Iranian people. Oh, Tom, before I play this. Yesterday, after our whole thing, we went out and you said you might come, but you didn't. I just want to say that.
Yeah.
Kind of ditched us. But we were sitting, and a group of young ladies came and sat at a table down away from us. And then, they're sitting, talking and stuff like that. And then they started just like laughing and playing music and enjoying. And then I realized they were Persians. I was looking at them. They were so happy over what was going on. I turned to my brother and I was like, bro, look at these people. They're just like genuinely happy over what's going on.
They're all celebrating, by the way. They're all
Yeah.
going out. That's why you're seeing Persians at restaurants.
Yeah, like everywhere.
You'll
They're
see
like out
more.
and stuff.
They're really
so that
going
was
out
interesting.
right now.
And I say this because I think what we're about to watch is connected to that.
Yeah.
You can't imagine how we are appreciate our country, our people. I'm really appreciate. We love you. Thank you, Mr. President Trump. God bless you. God bless America. Thank you, Mr. President. Dear Mr. President Trump.
Trump kill Khamenei. I'm so happy. Thanks, Trump. Thanks, Trump. You are the best man in the world. I love you, Trump.
I want to have a big thanks to President Trump for keeping his promise and freeing people of Iran that has nothing to do with this government, with this terrorist government.
Love you, Trump. You can.
The
By the way, I'm
excitement of
convinced-
it's contagious. Her excitement,
Yeah, I'm
bro.
so happy for them, but I'm convinced that the second lady is the wow, grave Pakistan.
No.
But I'm like, that's 100% the same lady, by the way.
It's not.
But man, they're so happy. They're so excited. Like, what kind of a-hole do you have to be to not realize that these people are genuinely good people who are just so excited that their country might potentially be free.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a liberating thing.
By the way,
And
I forget who I was watching, but they were talking about, might have been PBD, But basically, the conversation was over. A lot of Silicon Valley kind of developers and stuff are actually Persians. There's like a good chunk of them. And what they were saying is, imagine if Iran was free. And mind you, even under this tyranny and all this stuff, look at the tech they've developed. Like, look at the drones and all this stuff they've developed. Like, this is a intelligent culture that has it's a rich culture. And I'll give you some other pointers historically from that. They've been selling weapons to Russia, guys. The Russians have been using Iranian weapons to fight their war against Ukraine. Don't ever anybody else compare Russia and America, by the way. Just by that fact. So the person was saying, hey, if Iran is free and they start developing the stuff they can, like technologically, it could become the major tech hub in the Middle East. Like, it could be a great place where innovation and technology is developing well. When you actually study world history, one of the things you're going to come across is extremely intelligent Iranians who've impacted the world in very, very good ways. I always advertise for a podcast called The History of Philosophy Without Any Gaps. And when you listen to that podcast, he has this whole segment where he goes into the history of philosophy within the Islamic world. And he's dealing with Muslim, Christian, and Jewish philosophers in the Islamic world. And constantly, generally when you read books, it'll be like Muslim philosopher such and such. And then people just assume quite often that those individuals are Arabs. When you actually start doing the research, you realize a good amount of them, I don't want to say majority, but a good amount of them, really influential thinkers who were scientifically minded, who were philosophically minded, were coming out of Iran. One of the things that we have to realize is that Iran had a culture and a civilization that was fully developed way before most countries were ever a thought in anyone's mind. That's how old and rich this country is. Okay. It has very, very rich heritage. Its people, part of the reason why its people are so proud of their heritage is because of that. And so I think great things can come out of this country. Obviously, if the people are given freedom and encouraged to innovate and create, they are innovators and creators. They'll be a blessing to the world. They really will. Instead of being a thorn in the side of the world, they can be, they as a country, what I mean is, will become a great blessing to the world. Okay.
Amen to that.
That's important. Okay, I think we're going to win. This guy says the Code of Hammurabi was better than the Old Testament. My simple response to you, Sean, is you've probably never read the Code of Hammurabi. And so you just repeat stuff that you heard in some YouTube video. Go away. Okay, Tom, thanks for joining me. Next time, join me properly on time. When you tell me you're going to be here at 12:50, you got to be here at 12:50.
Let's do it.
1:50.
Run it back.
We got to run it back. We'll run back one of these days. Thank you. Folks, that was Tom. I think I'll call it a day as well. Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys. God bless you guys. Keep praying for the peace of the world. Keep praying that this situation resolves quickly, that the Iranian people are free, that people can move on with their lives. Look, nobody, and especially Christians, we shouldn't want prolonged conflicts like this, because it does mean not only Iranian lives are lost, because all lives are nonetheless in the image of God, including Khomeini, the dictator. He's still made in the image of God. There's still a value in this person just by being in the image of God. You guys have to remember that and realize that. But also, like as Americans, we don't want American soldiers put in harm's way, and they could potentially lose their lives. That's the reality of it. So pray that people kind of surrender and give up and say, look, we've had it. Let's finish this and then move on to the next chapter in our great and long and illustrious history, and then become a blessing to the world. So, Sean, shut your mouth. So that's what my response to you would be. And I'm like this close to blocking you for those comments. With all due respect. You talk nonsense. You talk out of that same place. That's the problem. I don't know. Maybe you're drunk right now. Okay. Take care, guys. God bless you. And I'll see you next time. Be well.